We as Americans and humans in general need to realize that global warming is real and it exists. The polar ice caps are melting and the sea levels are rising. Our main contribution to global warming is the burning of fossil fuels. Nowadays, everybody has a car and a lot of people like to drive. And that car runs on traditional gas, which is made from a fossil fuel. And the burning of those fossil fuels releases greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, which contributes to global warming. Biofuels made from biomass, such as crops from corn, rapeseed, and switchgrass. It's a better alternative to fossil fuels. Biofuels are far superior to fossil fuels because biofuels are renewable. They harm the environment less than fossil fuels, and they have performance advantages. Biofuels are a renewable resource. The crops can be grown year after year constantly, and they'll offer no price fluctuations like fossil fuels do. There's a significantly less harm on the environment that biofuels create when compared to fossil fuels. The majority of our gas it's imported from the Middle East, and it consumes a lot of actual gas to get it here by the boats bringing it. So since biofuels are able to be grown here, there's going to be no need for this unnecessary consumption of fossil fuel. And also, during the growing processes of the crops such as corn, they're taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere constantly and putting back in oxygen. According to Ronald Trimp and Ted Huge of University of North Dakota Energy and Environment Center, they say a key benefit derives from the fact that ethanol is made from renewable biomass, and biomass growth utilizes carbon dioxide derived from CO2 pulled out of the atmosphere, which means that burning ethanol results in a near neutral impact on the atmosphere's CO2 levels. And if you when you compare side by side biofuels to fossil fuels, if you take out their manufacturing process, the burning of biofuels produces a lot less CO2 emissions. Ronald Trimp and Ted Hulich also said that 15,000 miles a year, the approximate 372 grams per mile per vehicle CO2 emission reduction is achieved from switching from gas to E85, which translates to 6.1 tons of CO2 reduced per year per vehicle. And switching to biofuels gives us a renewable resource and will harm the environment less while still providing performance benefits. Due to the chemical nature of biofuels, they produce a higher octane level, which will protect your car's motor or automobile's motor from knock or detonation, which occurs when your engine can no longer control the combustion of fuel inside the motor. Biofuels also allow your engine to run cooler. Bill McGuire from Hot Rod Magazine said E85 has a much greater latent heat of vaporization than gasoline, cooling the intake charge and thus increasing air density. And if you run biofuels over fossil fuels, you'll also allow your engine to make more power. A company called CG Performance says you can make up to 15 to 20% more horsepower from the same motor just by switching to biofuels. There is a drawback when you look at biofuels compared to fossil fuels, and that's in their gas mileage. It requires about 30% more biofuel when compared to fossil fuel, but I think that with development of engineers, they'll further develop this technology, and they'll eventually learn to get every drop worth of biofuel, and then they'll eventually increase the gas mileage. And I believe that any fuel that is a renewable resource and will harm the environment less than fossil fuels while still providing performance benefits is a far superior fuel than fossil fuels. And one of the only fuels that can do that is biofuels. That's it.
All right, Justin, there's a lot of background information on all of the negative things that come from burning fossil fuels, and I know you're doing that to demonstrate that there's controversy here, but you're also a little bit burying the proposition, which is really that biofuels are superior to fossil fuels. So I think you might want to have that a little bit earlier and save the argument about fossil fuels and the problems they create for the first and second points in your substructure so that we can see how that is connected to those particular issues. There's a good preview of what the supporting structure is, although I think you do rush through it. The problem is in the body of the speech, I didn't think you were as clear at signposting those points as you got to them, and as a result, some of the information runs together a little bit. There are places where there is good data to support some of the claims, but there's also a number of places where you make claims without any data on it. For instance, when you talk about it being better for the motor, I don't really get much data on that. At the end, you've got a nice comparison where you're talking about a potential drawback with gas mileage, but then you're saying ultimately, you believe that engineers will solve this problem by increasing the mileage. But again, that's an assertion on your part, and I think we need some data or some reason to believe that. The one thing that sticks out in my listening to your argument, because you make fossil fuels and CO2 the main issue here, is that the one quote that directly applies to that suggests that it has a neutral impact on CO2, which is not exactly a ringing endorsement of the idea that biomasses or biofuels are going to substantially reduce CO2. So I think that argument needs to be developed a little bit more strongly. You're a little bit script dependent also there, and I think that that's a problem. All right, thank you.